Hello, everybody. How you doing? 1 second. Let's get Scott in. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to Whining On. My name is Matthew Bowden, the Inculture Rogue, and today I'm with Scott Hutchison. Scott, how you doing? Super
Hello.
Scott. Nice to see you, brother.
Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm very, very good, thank you. Thanks for asking. How are you, man?
I'm good, yeah.
Cool. So, should we get into it quite early and say you began at a very early age? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah.
So, when was your first street show?
When I was 10, 2002, I believe.
Wow. And so you must have watched shows a long time before then.
Yes. 19, I think I went to the Fringe in 99, if I remember rightly.
No, and how old? So you were 8 years old then.
So 99. Yeah, I would have still been 7 in the August, but yeah.
And what was that? Was that your mum bringing you down, showing you the fest? So you live in Edinburgh, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so, what was your experience as a 7-year-old going to see all these shows?
Great, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like kind of opened my eyes right away, if you know what I mean. Like to that was a possible thing to do, if you know what I mean.
And so, even as a young man at 7 years old, you thought this is something you'd like to do.
Yeah, maybe not right away, but after watching a few shows, I guess.
And do you remember the shows you saw when you were 7?
Yes, Vince Henderson.
Who's Vince Henderson?
His Liverpool unicycle show still comes to the Fringe every year.
Okay, and what was this show like? You know, what do you remember as a young man watching that, or a young boy at that time?
Just juggling. He does juggling and unicycle, kind of a standard, the standard unicycle show.
But you didn't think that as a 7-year-old, right? You weren't watching it as a 7-year-old thinking, "Oh, this is a standard juggling show."
No, not at all. But like that. But obviously, I now know that is what it was.
But what was the impression to you watching Vince when you were 7 years old? Do you remember?
Just like amazed, I guess. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And so, who else did you see at that time?
Frodo, Captain Frodo,
Guy we had on the show a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember seeing him at Hunter Square. I think it was. Yeah, it was Hunter Square, definitely. And obviously that was a different type of show because he was doing contortion and straitjacket and that kind of thing.
Cool. And so, what was the Fringe to you as a young person? Was it just this crazy, chaotic time? You live in Edinburgh all year round. What did it feel like?
It was like my favourite month of the year, I would say, just because it was crazy. Yeah, as you say yourself, it was crazy. Yeah.
And so, what did you go all day? Would your mum take you down? And
I think this is. I think 99 is before there was a draw. It might have been just the year before, if I'm not. If not, it might have been the first year of the draw. But it was around about that time when it was changing, anyway.
And this was when, because before the draw is kind of a chaotic place, right?
Like I didn't know anything about the draw or anything at the time, obviously. But I'm saying that yeah.
And is 7 your first memory of doing it, or is 7 actually that's when your mum brought you down for the first time?
I'm pretty sure that was the first time, yeah.
And so, did your mum take you around and see the shows every year after that?
Yes.
And
yeah,
so
I don't think I really got talking to any performers until the next year, maybe 2000.
Okay, so you said you started talking to performers the next year.
Yes.
So what would they take you under their wing, take you to the back of the pitch, chat with you?
Which would have been a guy called Colin from South Africa. He only came a couple. He's not what you would know as a regular at the Fringe, but he did come for a couple of years, I believe.
And what were people doing when they took you back? Did they show you tricks, show you little magic tricks, kind of entertain you personally?
I don't know. I don't quite know what year it was. It might have not been till about 2001 or 2002. Shep taught me how to juggle 3 balls.
Was that Shep Huntley?
This is Shep Huntley, yeah.
And so were you hanging around, because am I right in thinking, and I act as if I don't know, even though I know. Am I right in thinking that the performers would queue up at Hunter Square? Was this a place where you'd meet all the other performers as a young boy?
Yes.
And so what?
Yeah.
You'd hang around the
The
queues?
lockup, the storage unit used to be at Hunter Square.
Okay. And so
that's
everyone's
why-
hanging out there.
That's why a lot of people were hanging there. Yeah.
And so what? Your mum would come down. Your mum would watch the shows. You'd go and hang around by the performers, or
Yeah. Going around watching shows. I don't really remember going down to the Mound much at this time, but this might have been when it was when the Mound was under construction or something, because
maybe.
it used to be all cobbles, the Mound, so it changed a lot.
Yeah, because now it's all quite flat concrete slabs, isn't it?
I think for 2 or 3 years it was like closed off completely because it was under construction. So.
And so 2001, Shep Huntley teaches you how to juggle, right?
2000, yeah, I think it might have been 2002 that, but yeah.
So 2000, so this is the same year you did the show?
Yeah, probably. But my first street show was with one water bottle. So.
One water bottle? How does one do a street show at 10 years old with one water bottle?
Just kind of made it up as I went along, I guess. Like behind the back with a water bottle, under the leg. And then I stood up on the, do you know the, a lot of, if anyone's been to Hunter Square, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Well, maybe it's helpful. Set the scene for where you started to the show, because the place might have changed from now to then.
There's marble benches at either side. So I remember I stood up on one of them and then basically did the same tricks up there for my finale.
And why did you do the show?
But at that point, I obviously had watched enough shows to know that you should get up on something high at the end, like the standard thing of getting.
Even at 10 years old, you knew height equals money.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't necessarily know that height equaled money, but I'd obviously seen enough shows that finished on height.
And you were you were emulating the people you'd seen from the 3 years you'd been going there.
Yeah, I guess so.
And were the other performers encouraging you then? Did they put you up to going out and doing the show?
That first show, there was a lot of performers watching, because it was after hours Hunter Square as well.
Oh wow! When you say after hours, what, like 8, 9 o'clock?
This was after there was a draw, so obviously I wasn't in the draw. So therefore, I don't know. It might have been about 8, 7:30 or something, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when the last show was at the time. But.
And so were the performers sat around having a beer at the end of the day? Yeah, the young lad who's been mucking around,
As I said, the storage unit was there, so people were still hanging about after they'd done shows, and I believe at that point they weren't going to City Cafe to hang out. They were going to the Tron, which is the pub on Hunter Square.
Yeah, because all the performers go to one bar to hang out, right?
Yeah.
And so, so you say the performers put you up to. Do you remember the chain of events that led you to doing the show?
Not really, no.
But it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, I remember. I know that AJ gave me a tenner at the end of that show.
Oh, nice for me.
This is AJ James.
I heard a story of you escaping from a 5-year-old's jumper. Someone who I was told about that. Was that the same show back then?
No, I don't know. It was probably quite soon after that. I think that might have been the same year. Yeah.
So you did a succession of shows that year?
Probably maybe 3 or 4.
And was this all because you were hanging about? You were there all the time. The mum was hanging about in Hunter Square, and so
And by this time, I would say I'd made friends with some of the performers. I'd known them for a year or two. Some of them for a year or two anyway. By this point, so they knew me. They knew me by this point.
You were the little buddy on the pitch.
Yeah.
And so when Shep started teaching you juggling, did you ask him? Did you say, Shep, I want to juggle?
I think I was maybe trying to juggle, and then he was like, "That's not really how you do it." If you know what I mean. Like, I don't know if it was just. I don't know if he thought I should teach him to juggle to be the next generation. I don't think he would have thought that. I think he just thought that it was good to, teach a kid how to juggle, I guess. But
Yeah, well, it's a nice thing to do, and if you were trying to do it, why not? And you did become the next generation of jugglers.
Yeah, I know,
So
but I don't think he was thinking that when he taught. You know what I mean? I don't. Yeah, well, he might have been.
maybe he looked and thought, "Oh, I feel sorry for this poor kid throwing two balls around. Give him a little bit of a
I guess,
start."
I guess so. Yeah.
And so, did you learn to juggle by the end of that fringe?
Yes, I
So
think so.
you were juggling 3 balls in the 4 weeks.
Free ball. Yeah, yeah. Free balls. Yeah.
And what was your feeling then after this fringe month when you're 10 years old and you've done these couple of shows and you've started to juggle?
How do you mean? Like, hard to describe, I guess. As you say, it was a while ago too.
Yeah.
Just like the feeling of being able to perform, just that adrenaline you get from performing, I guess, was the feeling.
And were you a very popular kid at school? Were you a performer in school with your mates and stuff like
Not,
that?
I wouldn't say I was overly popular at school. No,
So was
I
this?
had friends, like,
Yeah.
but like I wasn't unpopular, but I wasn't like the most popular, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Was performance part of your life any other time?
No.
So did it change after that? Because what I'm kind of getting at and what I'm kind of trying to think of is, does that month when you're 10 doing the shows, being around the performers, create something new? Or was that a continuum that just got utilized at that point?
Yeah, I guess the one that got utilized. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah. And so what happened to you after that then? Did you go home and practice a lot?
Yeah. Well, like after the festival in Edinburgh, is a very kind of, well, for a street performer, I guess it's a depressing time a little bit if you're still in Edinburgh, because it kind of just dies. Do you know? Like one day there's thousands of people on the Royal Mile, and then the next day it's just like a normal day. Do you know what I mean? Have you been there after that? You've been there after the
Yeah,
festival.
yeah, I've seen it myself, but I'm interested in that. You're a local, so you see it through a different eye. And you've probably been to a lot more fringes than I have. By the sounds of it, you've been to 18 fringes, maybe 21 fringes now, right?
It would have been been to, yeah.
But
Performed that. I'd have to count it up, but yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at well over 15, right?
We're looking at over 15 that have performed that, yeah.
Yeah. And so you say that it's like the day after it goes from being thousands and thousands of people pouring through the streets every day to being dead.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't, not necessarily dead, but more like, I think it's possible to work. It's possible to do a show, but it's just like doing a normal street show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to build a crowd. It takes time.
Yeah.
And so what did you do, 10-year-old you? What do you do after that fringe? After you've done those shows, after you've started to learn how to juggle?
Went to school.
But did you carry on juggling? Did you?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit, yeah. But I didn't perform again until the next August. I don't.
Okay. So did you you forgot about it for a year? You went back to being a 10-year-old kid?
No, yeah, not at that point. It might have been. I might have started performing like maybe a few days before, so maybe like the end of July, I think, maybe.
And did you juggle in between?
Because performers tend to start to arrive about the week before the fringe.
It's Jazz Week, if I'm right, yeah?
Yeah.
And were you practicing when it comes to this next fringe? Have you got skills developed now?
Yes. Was that the year? No, I think that might have been the next Christmas. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I think I got some clubs by that point, but I don't think I could juggle 3 clubs at that point, because I'm going to get to something in a minute. But yeah, because I remember. So yeah, something just came to me, but yeah.
So when it comes to the next fringe, you've not got 3 clubs yet. You've not developed that many skills. It's kind of something where it's like, I'll look forward to doing that again when the fringe comes. And you were young.
Yeah. I might have had 3 clubs, but not. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when
no, because the thing I'm about to say was when I got clubs the next year, which was Bike Boy bought me some clubs.
Oh, so you didn't
like just the basic kind of clubs, but there was a juggling shop down the Grass Market at the time.
Yeah.
And he disappeared for an hour and then came back, Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It seems like the
And
performers.
he was like, you need some more props, but yeah, and I think I think my mum even offered him like the money for it or something, you know what I mean? But then he was like, no, it's a present, just just have it like.
Yeah. What a lovely thing to do. Bike Boy, also somebody we've interviewed on the show. You can check him out. It seems like those guys are they're a family to you.
I've got more stories about Bike Boy, but that will be later on.
Yeah, definitely. So we did the first year where you performed. The second year you performed. What were you doing the second year? You obviously not club juggling because that comes the year after. Are you doing the water bottle again?
What are we talking about now? 2003.
Yes.
Yes. So, I wanted to perform properly at this point, and Space Cowboy told me how to go to the Fringe office and apply. But he said, don't apply for a circle show because you're not ready for that, obviously. But he said, apply for the alcoves,
the half circle,
which is the smaller pictures.
Yeah.
For like 20 minute, half an hour shows.
And so I take it you did that.
I did do that, yes. So, and at that time, there was no draw for the alcoves. They got pre-scheduled.
Okay.
So I think this was like the first day of the Fringe, but there was still spaces available, so they basically sorted it out pretty quickly, you know what I mean?
And what did you do?
I did free balls. Oh, I think I'd learnt a little bit of Diablo by this point as well. So I think I could do like a high throw with a Diablo. In the year, I think I had done a little bit of practicing, you know.
Yeah. But you weren't going every day of the week to a juggling workshop or something like that.
No. I think I could do the basics with a Diablo, so I could do the high throw and stuff. Yeah.
So the basic things. I take it you don't have a show structure at this point. You're just going out there and kind of a young, fresh-faced person and just doing a few bits.
I think I maybe got a bit of a show structure just by doing it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I would start with the Diablo and then do the free balls, and then I couldn't juggle 3 clubs, so I did a walk of death.
With balls?
With 2 clubs.
What, just throwing one club from the other hand?
Basically juggling 3 clubs, but without the 3rd club, if you know what I mean. Like,
I've got you. It's like the training thing.
There's the space for the 3rd club to come in, but there's no 3rd club.
And do you think people were really forgiving to you because you were a wee diddy one?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think they just thought, oh, here's a kid trying to perform, you know. So I think the audience
didn't give you a hard time.
Sometimes, like I'll probably get to that later as well, but I think sometimes I got paid better. Sometimes when I first started doing like circle shows, I think actually sometimes I got paid better back then. But then that could have been the time as well. It could have been before recession as well.
Well, I think before recession helps, but also as well, I do think that when you're young doing something, just the fact you're out there doing it has this kind of this spectacle, this thing to it, you know. And so it's 2004 that Bike Boy buys you the clubs, right?
No, 2003.
Oh, so it's the same year. It's 2003 when you're doing the walk of death. Yes.
Yeah.
And so when you've done that now, do you reach the end of the Fringe and go back to school and stop practicing again? Do you keep practicing the year after? Are you becoming more dedicated as the years go on?
I think yes. I think I practiced more then, and yeah, I still don't think I performed again though until next year. Like not maybe the odd, if I remember rightly, maybe the odd couple of shows. Like just this is before the Royal Mile was pedestrianised all the time as well.
So you didn't have the Royal Mile in the off season.
When the Fringe was on, the road was closed, but when but it was open as a normal road when the event wasn't on. If you know, like
I got you. And so that wasn't possible. So you do down at the Mound, or I suppose you do Hunter Square.
So I would guess I was doing still the alcoves as well, though, on the side of the church, and just bring it in. Yeah, but I don't even know if I don't even know if that was that year, or it might have been the following year when I started doing a little bit more out of the festival.
And had the idea of you being a professional full-time entertainer when you grew up started to set in? Because you've got to your 13 now, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. But like I did the alcoves for probably 5 years, I think, maybe 4 or 5 years anyway. Yeah.
So that would take you up to 15. So that's just as you're becoming a man, basically.
Yeah.
And so what made you make the transition from one to the other?
What do you mean
From the alcoves into doing the circle pitches? Why do that?
Oh, because I think I think by that point my show had progressed to be big enough to do a circle show.
How would your show progress then? How had it changed?
Well, where are we on now? 2004 ish. 2005. Hunter Square was not run by the Fringe for some reason that year. So I think I did some shows at Hunter Square as well as doing the alcoves. So I think my show kind of had to progress
Because it's a bigger space.
Yeah.
And when you say it had to progress, you were still doing the Walk of Death? You were still starting with Diablo, juggling the balls?
I think I was doing, yeah. Well, by 2005, I'd learned to juggle free clubs. So I was doing the Walk of Death with free clubs.
Yeah.
But then I think I did the too high. I think that was the year I started doing the two guys standing. I'll explain it because, two guys standing opposite each other with their arms crossed. You stand on each arm and juggle.
And so you're standing above these people on top of their arm, right? I got you.
That was my new finale. And then I think because of that and because of the height, the crowd got too big in the alcoves.
So you outgrew the alcoves?
Yes. But I didn't start doing the circle shows until properly until 2008, I think.
And what were you doing in terms of the presentation of it? Were you writing jokes? Were you looking around? Were you chatting with the guys in the pitch and getting jokes from them? How did you get material?
99% stock material.
Okay, and would they be things that people would tell you? Because it seems like as you're growing up,
when I was about 12, so that must have been 2004. No, 2004. Yeah, 2004. Right. I was doing lines. This is when I met. So I kind of went a bit ahead of myself in 2005, didn't I? But anyway, that's okay. But 2004 is when I met James and Todd Various.
Okay. And Todd Various was doing a magic show at this time?
Yes. You know where the Adam Smith statue is now? It's on the corner of the High Street.
Okay.
Just before you get to the High Street pitch.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't there.
Okay.
So they were using that as a pitch for small magic shows. This is probably the week before the Fringe. So it wasn't an official pitch, but they were using that.
Yeah.
And I started doing shows there, and then I was 12. So I was using lines that didn't really suit a 12-year-old.
What kind of lines?
As in the line, if I kill your child, I'll help you make a new one.
It's a funny line. It's a funny line.
The one I remember.
But at 12 years old, you're probably not capable to.
It's a funny line, but a 12-year-old should not be delivering that line. But I just said it because I'd heard someone else say it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't actually think the line through.
How did the audience respond to that? Were they cringing or were they laughing?
They were a mixture of both, I think.
Okay. Fair enough. And so you were just picking lines up from the people around you, kind of osmosis.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And so you developed what would you describe that show at the time as a standard street show? You've got material from around.
I had two rings that I would start with by then, and I was spinning them on my fingers. Todd's got a photo somewhere. I think it's on my Facebook somewhere. maybe, because he tagged me in it one time, and I think it's on my Facebook. So yeah, I've got a photo from that time at least.
Yeah. And so you move on to the big pictures. What's that like?
Oh, we skip into there. Okay.
Oh no, well, if you want to say the next bit, then carry on by all means. I'm kind of reaching out to try.
I was going to say something else, but
yeah, please.
I was going to say something else. I kind of forgot now. Oh yeah, I was just going to say after 2004, I think I started doing more shows, and I was doing sometimes I was doing walk by juggling on Princess Street.
Okay.
Near where Silver performs.
Yeah, so on the big commercial high street.
Used to perform anyway as the Silver Man.
Yes.
But yeah, I was using that pitch some of the time and doing
And was that practice time? Was that turn a few quid? What are you spending the money on?
I think I was just spending it on, standard kind of teenage stuff, I guess.
Like beer, cigarettes.
I was going to say more like CDs, DVDs, and that kind of thing, but okay.
Fair enough. And so you're getting to be a better juggler then, because all this time is practice time, right?
Yes.
And so you're working then now, more off season. You're juggling on the side streets. You're starting to become a bit more of a full-fledged street performer. You've got this great college every August of some of the best street performers in the world coming to Edinburgh, and it seems like from the way you're talking about it that they kind of they were part of the family, that they brought you in every month, and that you were there, you were part of their family.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And that what a great learning experience, right? Do you think that had a major contributor?
If I go back a bit as well, 2002, I saw the Happy Side Show as well. I wanted to mention that. So
who's the Happy Side Show?
The Happy Side Show was Shep, Huntley, Space Cowboy, Captain Frodo, and a girl called Tiger Lil.
Wow, what a lineup!
Yep, great lineup. It was all sideshow stuff. So obviously Frodo was doing his contortion, and Space Cowboy was doing his sword swallowing,
and was this a family show?
Shep was mostly the MC.
They sort of let you in because you knew everybody.
No, kids were allowed, but I wouldn't say it was a family show.
Yeah, quite grotesque things.
There was no real swearing, or I guess the guys had their tops off, but apart from that, there was no real nudity or anything like that. But it was just the type of stunts they were doing.
Yeah, weren't necessarily things to bring kids to.
Isn't exactly child friendly. For example, Shep was putting his arm in a dingo trap, and in an animal trap and all that. So
yeah, was the blood?
Shep was that's all he really did in it. Shep was mostly the MC, but yeah,
he was holding everything together.
Pretty much, yeah. But it was good though.
And so, what was your experience then? We'll get to this point now. Moving from the small sideshow pitches, the sort of 20-minute turnover half circle pitches, to going to doing the full circle pitches. What was the experience like? Was it difficult?
Very good, because
on
my first circle show draw, I came out first.
Wow.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know who's watching here, by the way.
We've got people watching. They've got a reasonably big crowd watching at the moment. We don't see names. We just see little eyeballs of people.
Oh, right. I was going to say, how can I see if there's anyone watching anyway?
Well, Nicola Bird and Beatboxer MP3 have both said hi.
All right. Nicola Bird's my auntie, so.
There you go. Hi, auntie. If anyone in the comments wants to say hi to Scott, you can do. I'll reiterate it to him so he knows you're watching.
And I don't know who the other person is, but okay.
He's a London beatboxer who watches a lot of the shows.
All right, fair enough.
So you come out first then. You've gone to do the big pitches. Is it a draw system daily like we have nowadays at the Fringe?
Yes.
Okay.
It's down where Mary King's Close, which is a tourist attraction in Edinburgh. The draw at the time was down. You went down that close where that is, and then down the steps and into a courtyard at the back of there.
I remember.
Which I believe you've been to before.
Yeah. I was there before they moved it. Yeah. Philip Battle also says hi. Philip's an artist up from Liverpool.
Okay.
So you've come.
So I can't. So you can see it obviously, but I can't see the comments. Obviously.
Yeah, you can on laptop, but Scott's at the moment communicating through his iPhone, so I don't think you get to see the comments on there. So there's how many performers are there? 50 performers, 30 performers?
Yeah, probably. I think I don't know. This is maybe when it started to get a bit more. So probably 50. Yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Charlie Ann Jenkins Faulkner also says hi.
She's the other entertainer that works at the holiday camp.
There you go. We'll get to that later on, but Scott at the moment is now one of the few people working in entertainment in Britain. But we'll get to that later, right? So when you go there to move from the half circle pitch to the full circle pitch, a lot of those people have watched you grow up, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
What's the environment like when you go there for the first time? Are people playing it very cool, or are they really beefing you up?
This is the first time I was in the draw, but I had been to the draw just to hang out before that. If you know, a few times. But
did people cheer when you came out first? Were people happy? What was the
yes, like? Actually, it got a round of applause.
Oh,
Mike, I don't know if the round of applause was from everyone, but the majority definitely.
It's a nice.
I think they were like, "Oh, it's his first draw and he's came out first," so they were going. That's very like. I was very surprised because it's very unlikely, isn't it? Like any performers,
50 to 1, 30 to 1, 40 to 1.
Yeah, so I got a round of applause, and as I said, the majority, I think maybe a few performers were a bit like, "Oh, how's he came out for but you're always going to get that."
There's always a bit of jealousy. Some people are, "Fuck him, he came out first," kind of thing.
So at the time, Parliament Square was my pick.
Yeah, and what's Parliament Square?
It's a courtyard next to the cathedral.
And this is the biggest pitch in the Edinburgh Fringe, right?
Well, yeah, at the time it was.
Maybe not anymore. Stalls are on there now, I know, but
yeah, exactly. I think there might have been a few stalls by then, but not as many as there is now.
Yeah, they're doing their best to destroy that pitch, but hey. And what time did you pick?
I picked, I think, 2:45 was the time.
So it's prime time.
Yeah, I think I'd overheard people going 2:45 Parliament Square. That's the one you want. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. But yeah,
did people come up to that?
I think certain shows wanted that.
Yeah.
But then other certain shows don't necessarily work as well on that pitch.
Well, so I never pick it.
Yeah, exactly. But and so they would pick High Street, you know what I mean? Yeah, because their show works.
Well,
because of walk by and stuff.
Yeah, you want to interact with the crowd. You don't really want to have West Parliament because you've got nothing going on behind you.
I think I would pick, I would pick High Street over Parliament now, but at the time.
And was the guys there with you at the draw who were kind of going, "Oh, you should pick this, you should pick that"? Were people gathering around you at the list? Because you're writing a list, don't you? There's a big
yeah. Not overly that I remember, no.
Okay, fair enough. And how did the show go? Were you nervous before you went on?
It was a good show. I remember it well.
How do you feel before you went on?
I think I was a bit nervous because it was a much bigger pitch than I'd ever worked before this, and then I'm going straight into it on the first day of the Fringe onto a big pitch.
And was there any feeling of having to impress your peers? Having, these people have watched you grow up, they've seen you from a kid. Did you feel a sense of needing to please, or?
I felt a sense of needing to succeed, if you know what I mean. Like.
When you say
if I go out there now and make a mistake, they'll be like, "He's picked prime time and he's fucked it up." Do you know what I mean?
You had to feel like you had to show you deserved it.
Yeah.
And so, how did it go then? Lead us through the show.
It was good. I was still doing the two high at time. Oh, I was juggling fire by this point.
And how did you build a crowd?
I think I had a bit of music at the time. I had more equipment by this point because I had an amp, and I don't think you were allowed to use a mic, but you were allowed to play background music.
Yeah, to build up. And did you have a method of building, or did you get your props out and put your props around you?
Yeah, I think I put on music and set up my props, and then it's Edinburgh Festival. So by that point, I had enough people to start a show. Really, you know.
Yeah. And so you enjoyed it? Were you having a good time out there? Were you
Yeah.
anxious when you just having you weren't
Once
anxious?
I think once I was into the show, it was fine. If it, like
Yeah.
once I had the crowd and got a reaction for the first couple of things, I think I was fine after that point. Yeah.
And so did you feel like you'd slipped into being a circle performer quite easily at that point?
Yes. Yes, I'd say so.
And how was the rest of the month that year for you?
Good from what I remember. I think I did quite a few shows down the Mound. This is after the Mound was back open again, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I did quite a few shows down the Mound, maybe a couple on High Street, and then I was going Parliament Square if I could, if you know what I mean. But so I did a few on Parliament Square.
But it's
And I
where you
think
could draw, right?
probably most of my shows were on Mound 2, which is the smaller of the two pitches.
And it was this because you didn't come out high in the draw, and so you had to pick shows that other people didn't pick.
I think Mound 2 at the time was my second choice.
Okay, so that's not a bad place to work anyway.
So if Parliament Square was full, I'd go to
Yeah. And was there a difference in the way, because you've began to know everybody there, the whole community of performers, and if I'm right in thinking, Edinburgh is a community of performers for a month. They come from all over the world. They all know each other, and so when you've began there, you've been a kid. You're a child on the pitch, and everyone's kind of, mucking about with you, entertaining, teaching you bits. When you did shows, it was kind of a very fun thing to watch the young kid hanging about the pitch do the shows. Yeah. How did that change then from becoming a circle performer, becoming one of the performers?
I think at this point I was still the youngest performer because I was only 16 at this point. So I think I was still the youngest. Maybe not. There might have been a violin player or something in the alcoves by this point that was younger than me, but I was definitely the youngest circle performer.
And did people treat you differently because of that? Did you perceive that there was a difference? Could you tell there was a difference from being 10 to being 16 to now?
A little bit of a difference, yeah, but not. I don't think that much at this point because I think they still treated me as a kid at that point. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
You're still the young lad on the pitch.
Yeah.
And what would they do? Would people sit and give you advice? People laugh and joke with you? People pick on you a little bit? What was the way they treat you?
More giving me advice, I would say.
Very supportive.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the socialising happens in the bar after the show. Did they ever?
I remember a couple of people saying like that I had to slow down a bit with my because there's a time limit. I felt like I was finishing earlier than I should have because I maybe rushed the end a bit or too much or something. So I remember getting advice and just saying, you have more time than you think out there, if you know what I mean. Like 45 minutes is long when you're out there. It's longer than you think. It feels like it goes really quick sometimes.
And so
you should slow down because you've got more time than you think you have in your head, if you know what I mean.
And was that because you were, and I feel this when I do shows, a lot of time I'll go out there and I have to try and harness the nervous energy. Did you feel nervous when you're out there and that's why you were rushing through everything, trying to get everything done?
Sometime, I guess, yeah.
Okay.
I know what you mean.
But when people asked you and said, look, you can slow down, how did you deal with that? Did you have to actively just try and control the way you spoke and acted, or?
Yeah, that was the thing as well. I think I was speaking fast as well. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I should have. I now know that you should speak more clearly and slower so that everyone in the audience, because it's an international audience, so if you speak slower, then everyone can understand you. Obviously, if they don't speak it, but they can understand you better. They can understand what's going on better.
Yeah, I get it. Working in London a lot, I developed this strange way of talking where every word would have a separation between.
Basically, every word's got a full stop. Coming back to Bite Boy.
Yeah,
is the perfect example of that, and I think that is the right thing to do. I think maybe he speaks a bit too slow sometimes, but
How does he speak then?
Sorry?
So when he's performing, how does he speak? You say things speaks a bit too slow.
Speaks like this. Hello, I'm going to do a show. Everyone stop and watch me, because I'm actually a performer and I'm a pretty good performer. I think that was an all right impression.
Yeah.
Right, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He does the yeah.
Yeah. I think he does that as well, because if you ever see Bike Boy, and I know you have seen him on a pitch that's not a festival pitch where there's only so many shows, he'll do 5, 6, 7 shows a day.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking very softly and slowly uses a tiny amount of energy. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. But we'll get to Bike Boy because I stayed with him when I went to Australia, but we'll get to that.
Okay. Did you try and emulate anyone when you were learning? I mean, you're taking from lots of different sources, but was there ever any one or two people that you looked at and thought, I want to be that kind of performer?
Yes, but I don't yes at the time, but I don't think I've achieved it.
Well, what did you think at the time?
It was Space Cowboy was the one I would watch a lot.
Why?
I don't know. I just liked his show. I don't know. Like, I think he's a very good performer, but I don't think he's. And I don't think he'd mind me saying this ever. I don't think he's very funny in his show, if you know what I mean. Like he's got lines that are funny in there, but
yeah,
he's not really a comedy performer. He's a skill performer.
And so you enjoyed watching his work because he was incredibly skillful, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so you wanted to be that kind of performer. You wanted to be a high skill performer.
Yes, at the time, I guess. Yeah.
And so how? Sorry,
but then I started to watch people like JP more and went the other way. If you know what I mean. Yeah.
JP, can you explain why you watch JP more and what the other way with JP is?
Because he's a comedy performer. He's a comedy danger show basically. So, there's skills in there, but most of it is a lot of talking before he does the skill and a lot of lines. He wants to make the audience laugh more than he wants to make the audience be impressed, I would say.
He wants to entertain them, and he focuses on the entertainment.
Obviously, he wants to impress them by the end as well.
And so when you wanted to be Shane, did you start doing? Because I've done this in my past.
Well, I didn't want to be Shane, but okay.
But you know what I mean. I did this when it began. Is I'd look at a certain style of show, and when I watched that style of show, I'd be like, oh well, that's amazing, and I'd try to emulate that in my work, structures and little ways of saying words, even lines would crop into my show from these people as I was, consciously and subconsciously emulating.
I think maybe, but he was doing like sword swallowing and unicycle, so some of the lines only fitted with his some of the lines only fitted with that thing, like especially the sword swallowing, because it doesn't. You can't do some of those lines unless you are sword swallowing.
Yes, they're only applicable to the piece. JP stuff, for example. JP uses a huge amount of lines and structures and stuff like that. When you watched him and when you started really enjoying that, did you find, and I'm not saying, you stole or anything like that.
But no, I still enjoyed Shane's show as well, but I enjoyed them both. But
yeah, but you said you moved more towards the JP style of show. And so when you're doing that, did you find yourself emulating other people? Did you ever catch yourself kind of...
The year I started circle shows as well, 2008, JP had came like a month early that year. So I think that's when I started watching him more as well. So, and hanging out with him. So I knew him a bit before that, but I didn't know him as well as I do now, but that's when I started hanging out with him a bit and watching him more. So that's when I got interested in his show more, I think.
Yeah, you started understanding stuff and you put a lot more comedy into your show than I take it.
Yes. Yeah. As I say, a lot of it's standard stuff. still my show is probably still 85-90% stock.
You're not the only one. You know, most streeties
like,
are similar.
I'll admit that hands down. But I've not. But I think I got into trouble from a few performers when I was young because I took a few lines that weren't stock, if you know what I mean. Like, I just heard the one person say it and then said it like the next day.
And so when you say you got in trouble, like you don't have to name names.
Not in trouble, but yeah.
What did people do? Did they come up and speak to you?
Just a bit like, oh, you shouldn't be using that line, really. You know, like.
Was that other people saying it to you?
Came across
the person, or was it the person that did it? Did you have someone come to you?
It was usually the person, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And they'd say basically, "Don't do my bloody line."
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair. I mean, you were respectful of that. You said, "Okay."
Yeah. I learned that, and now I know. Obviously, now I know what's stock and what's not. You know, like. What? If I heard you do it, if I heard you do a line I never heard before, I wouldn't take it now. You know what I mean? For example.
Yeah. How do you define stock? Is stock just because people have done it for so long? It's so many different people.
Yeah. It's stuff that you hear in probably 90% of street shows. Like I would say, like there's some people's shows that have got more stock than others, obviously, but like there's a lot of stuff that works and still works, so that's why people have continued to use it, I guess.
I agree. I do agree.
Why fix it if it's not broken? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this stuff has kind of, people have put out joke books with it in, and a lot of the stock stuff, for example, there was the Gazzo joke book, and there's a number of other joke books, street joke books, where these stuff has been put out. And so it's almost becomes difficult for someone to claim ownership of it now.
Yep.
Which is, fair enough. It's fair game. So what did you do after this then? 2008 is when you went and did the circle pitch, right?
Yeah.
So did you then, so you're 16 now. Do you leave school at this point?
I had left school just before August, I think. I'd left school in the June or whenever it is.
Yeah. And you didn't think about higher education, anything like that?
Not really, no. No, not really.
And were you thinking to be a full-time street performer then?
Yep, I think so.
Okay. And did you do that?
Yeah, because after the festival I went down to I had been here but hadn't performed. I went down to Covent Garden.
Oh, cool. And how was that? What was the experience to go to Covent Garden for the first time?
I had been there before because my uncle lived just outside London. I say live because he's just moved back up to Edinburgh. But
okay.
And
so what, you went there regularly as a kid?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say to him. I'd say I went there a couple of years.
Graham Scott, Silverman, says, "What about me, me, me?"
Yeah. I already mentioned you, Silver, if you're there. I did mention him, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah.
He said he nicked your spot on Princes Street, Silver.
Yeah, pretty much.
So when you went to Covent Garden as a young boy, before 2008, what was your feeling of that, knowing the Fringe and knowing Covent Garden? How did it seem the same? Did it seem different?
Different, yeah, I would say different because it's not a festival, so it's just like doing a street show. But I don't know with Covent Garden because people do go there to see shows, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it always it's like a hard festival
because it's known for it. Like I think if you said to someone who'd been to Covent Garden, I think you'd say Covent Garden, they'd think of street performers because it's one of the things they. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so well, you can check out your mention later on. Maybe get mentioned again, Silver. So
what did he say?
He said, just tuned in.
Oh right, okay.
So you go down there to perform in 2008 after the Fringe, right?
Yeah.
And so, what's your experience of going and doing a what is ostensibly a foreign street pitch?
Yeah. Good actually.
Were people nice? Were people welcoming?
Yeah. Pete Pete Dobbin was the first person I saw when I went down to perform there, I think.
Okay. And what did Pete do? Did he say hello? Did you welcome you to the
Yeah,
draw?
yeah. He said that I'd just joined like didn't do all the licensing thing or anything. He said that I could just join. He was like, "You're fine, just join the draw," like
Yeah. And so you went into the draw. Did you come
I
out
think
first?
I think I got there too late for the draw on the day that I arrived. But then the next day he was like, I don't think you'll get a show today now, but I think you come down tomorrow morning. And I think the draw was like 9:30 or something at the time.
Yeah, it's quite early. At 9:15, I think, on the season times, if it was still kids' holidays. And so when you were down there, did you get a reasonably good show the first time you went down there?
Yes, I think so. I remember I think it was quite early. Like it was one of the early ones. Not maybe the first show, but the second or the third one maybe.
And how did it feel?
Whatever time whatever time that is, I don't know. Yeah. Is it?
It's sort of 11 o'clock, 10:40, 11:20. I mean, it's all changed now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the early show is 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock,
What?
In
Really?
in COVID times, yeah.
When's the draw now?
The draw's at 12 o'clock on the weekdays, 11 o'clock on the weekends.
Is it that late?
Yeah, it's that late now. During COVID times.
Job will be surprised by that because I believe when he lived in London, the draw was at like 8:15 or something.
It was indeed. And Graham Scott Silver has done an interview. If you want to check it out, he talks about that in length, I believe.
I think I saw Silver's one.
Yes, it's a good one. One of the mammoth early 4-hour interviews that we did.
Was that when it was still in lockdown?
We're
Yeah?
still in lockdown, yes, and many bottles of wine were drank during the interview.
Anyway, Covent Garden.
Yeah. So, what was your first show like? How was it different? Did you feel a difference?
Yeah, definitely different. More of a build than the festival, obviously. Yeah.
And how did you cope with that?
But I think it wasn't that difficult. I don't think because it was September, so still kind of season, I guess. But the kids have gone back to school, I guess. But,
yeah.
But
and did you stay in Covent for long? Did you just pass a journey, or?
I think I was there for about a week.
Okay, so you weren't there when the season started dropping off again.
Not really, no.
Did you go? Yeah. Did you go back to Edinburgh after that?
Yes.
And so you're a full-time street performer now. So when you go back to Edinburgh, where are you performing?
Edinburgh. Oh, this is when the mile just got pedestrianised, I think.
Okay.
Yes, because that's the reason. That was the reason that JP had came early that year. Yeah. I remember now. Yeah.
So you can work the Royal Mile at any time.
Yes.
And so did you go back?
But we usually face the other way. Do you know how during the festival most people face with their back against the council building? Well, not the back against it because they'd be in the middle of the street, but they're back facing the council building, right?
Yes.
But out of festival, we'd face the other way with your back against the Fringe shop.
Yes. And when you say we, so there was lots of people there when you went back?
Well, Todd was now living in Edinburgh full time.
Okay, and this is Todd Various, yeah?
Yeah, and I think Steve, Sideshow Stevie.
Who's Sideshow Stevie?
Sorry?
Who's Sideshow Stevie?
He's Steve. He's from Perth in Scotland.
And does he do sideshow tricks?
He does do sideshow, yes. He does a bit of juggling, but he does sword swallowing and bed of nails.
Fair enough. And so you three guys are queuing up at the pitch?
Yes. I think that was all who it was, really.
And how was it for you then because I've been in Edinburgh off season and it gets mighty quiet.
Silver was there, but I think he was just doing mostly the Silverman in Princess Street.
Fair enough. Hey, but I believe he was in a book from that, wasn't he? Was it Boyle? Is his name Boyle? The guy who wrote Train Spotting?
Yeah, probably. Irvin Welsh.
Irvin Welsh, sorry, yes. I believe he was mentioned in all the books by Irvin Welsh, if I remember correctly, the Silverman, being on Princess Street doing that. So when you're on the Royal Mile now, you're performing, it's off season. I've worked there myself off season. It gets really quiet. The builds are very slow.
But there's still tourists because obviously you've got Edinburgh Castle at the top of the street, so that's like the main tourist attraction in not just in Edinburgh but in Scotland, probably. So, so you still
It's
got
very
tourists.
different. It's not quick build, is it?
It's not easy. It's not easy some of the time. It's not like some people go, oh, you've got tourists there all year round, so it must be easy. But it's not. It's not. And I'm not saying that to stop performers from coming or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's really not. It's really not the easiest pitch.
I mean, I've worked there, and I know it's not an easy pitch. And I
sometimes
work in really quiet places in London.
I've done some great shows. I've done some great shows there out at the festival, but I've also done some really, really shit ones.
But what I'm interested in is how did you cope with building a crowd now that you've gone from, because it sounds like you've done festivals your entire life, from being a young kid to now doing 2008 there.
I guess I had really, yeah. But just Edinburgh at this point.
Yeah, well, you've done Covent Garden as well, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, festival-wise, just Edinburgh.
Yes, yeah. So just festivals in Edinburgh. You've gone and done a week in Covent Garden. You come back, and now it's empty and it's dead. This has got to be a new or deader.
This is just a new, it's a whole kind of new way of working, really.
Yeah, and how did you cope with that? How did you deal with that new challenge?
I think this is when I started to like become a stronger performer because I had to, if you know what I mean. Like,
what do you mean by become a stronger performer?
Just because I had to build a crowd rather than get it instantly. And
how do you build a crowd? Because you can't just put music on and put out props then, because there won't be enough people by the end. So how do you start building crowds?
Light a fire torch.
Set things on fire,
I guess was the answer. Light a fire torch and just like shout a lot, I guess was what I was doing at the time. And then I think I started to go on like the basis of if I get 10 people, then I'll start the show. Do you know what I mean? Like,
which I think is completely sound basis. Once you have 10 people, that's enough people for everybody around you to think you're doing something worth watching.
I think Todd and Steve might have said that to me because some of the time I think I might have been waiting too long to start the show, if you know what I mean. So I think they maybe said like, just wait until you've got about 10 people and then start the show, because then you've got enough people there, they're on your side, and then it will start to build naturally, which it does.
Isn't it great the way you can learn with the community, particularly in busking, in street performance?
I think you still have to be the right type of person, though. I don't think anyone could just do it. Like a lot of people think, oh, we just go out there and do exactly what he does, and we'll get a crowd and it will work, right? But I don't think. I think I've seen certain performers fail completely. Like people like people that have started out since I started. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
now you're one of the people on the pitch giving people advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And why do you think they failed? What's the thing you need? What's the certain person you need to be?
I think you just need to go out there with confidence is the main thing. The confidence and the mindset that you're not going to fail. If you you might still fail. Like there's still times. There's still been obviously I've not done a show in a while, but
well, not one where you need to build a crowd.
There's still been times fairly recently where I've failed. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure yourself or whatever has as well. But
yeah, very much so. Whatever. The way I describe
it, you could be the best street performer in the world and still fail from time to time. You know?
Well, that's the funny thing. I was chatting with a friend about this the other day, you know, because we're doing some shows in London when it's quite quiet a lot of the time because of COVID. And we were talking about how you can get the best entertainer in the world and you stick him in a place where no one gives a shit about him, and you walk past and you don't know about street shows, and you could look at that and go, look, he's crap. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, best people in the world can get caught in that situation.
I also think you could be a really good stage performer and then try and do a street show and completely fail because you don't know how to build a crowd, because if you're going on stage, the audience is already there.
And you're used to having the focus, and you go out there, you know, you try and do a show.
And usually on stage, they're either they're either there to see a show or they're there specifically to see that person.
Yeah, and a lot of time they pay money. They have a vested interest.
They're not always there specifically to see that person, but you know what I mean. But
yeah.
But if they're going to see that person's show, then they're there for them.
And so you managed to get better at building a crowd. You develop that. Do you work all the way through the winter?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And you work all the way through the spring, I assume, to the summer, back to the Fringe again.
Yeah.
And I assume that you've done your hard winter training, and by the time you get to the next Fringe, you're a lot more powerful as a show.
Yes. Yeah.
Just a quick thing. Brian Hulse says, "Hello from Japan. I was the young face in the pitch at one time!" Exclamation! But yeah, you were the young face in the pitch a long time ago, Brian.
I don't know who that is, but hello.
He's a performer, one of the main guys who broke Japan. We've got a Whining On with him coming on very soon. We did one Whining On. We had a part 2. We had some technical problems. It will be coming out of the edit very, very soon.
Yeah.
So he says hi anyway. So yeah, you come back to the Fringe the next year.
2009. Yes, 2009. This is a good year because I went to Galway.
Why go to Galway?
There's certain performers that wouldn't like me saying Galway out loud, but apparently it's a secret. But whatever. Anyway,
what's the secret?
What?
What's the secret?
They think it's a secret again. Festival pitch.
Is it very good?
Because it's a festival, Galway Arts Festival, but there's no really street program. You just kind of show up and do a normal street show, but it's busier than a normal street show because there's something on.
So it's a festival you can renegade.
It's better than doing a normal street show because there's something on, but it's not. But they're not actually there for the street shows, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean. And so, what was Galway like for you?
Good, very good. I loved Galway. I went for like 6 years in a row or something.
So you must have enjoyed it. And with the people, despite the fact that they're going stoked out, were they nice?
I've still got a friend. I've still got a couple of friends in Galway. Actually, I kind of want to go back, but I haven't been in a few years now.
Yeah, well, maybe after Christmas.
Well, there was a couple. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So you were saying how Galway was for you. You said you had a few friends there.
Yeah, I went. Todd and there's a story to this, right? Because Todd was like, you shouldn't go to Galway, you know, no, he was trying to put me off from going, right? So I just went ahead and booked a flight. At the time there was a Galway airport, but I think that's closed down now. But because I had to fly to Dublin a few years later instead. But so I just booked a flight, and it so happened that I ended up being on the same flight as Todd and Figo, who is another performer from, I was going to say Glasgow, but he's from near that kind of area, west of Scotland, Lanarkshire.
Yeah. And so am I right in thinking that Todd had said, don't go there, because it's crap or terrible or whatever. And then you get on the flight and he said,
yeah.
And he sat on the flight there.
I might have not been Todd saying it so much. I might have been more Figo, but yeah.
So they were just trying to encourage you not to go because they didn't want another performer
right.
there.
But then there's another story, but I don't know. Like, I'm not sure about saying this out loud online, but I think I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
Because I got off the plane, right, and they were at the baggage thing, and they got my bag, right. Todd spoke to me, Figo didn't, right. Then they went outside and got in a taxi, right, and they had been to Galway before, and I hadn't, and they didn't even offer to share the taxi with me. You know what I mean? They're going in the same direction. They're going into town.
So maybe they just were a bit disappointed because they thought they had one less person.
Yeah, but if I was going to get the taxi and there was someone I knew behind me, I would be like, "Oh, are you going the same way? You know, are you going into town? Just share a taxi with us."
Yeah, but I reckon you probably wouldn't try and convince someone not to go somewhere by saying it was crap when you really knew it could as well. So yeah,
that is true.
And was that before the Fringe?
Yes, it's July.
Okay, cool. And so you work that festival, you do good shows in that festival. You then come to
Yeah.
Fringe.
Stickman was there as well.
Who's Stickman?
Stickman is a Canadian performer who seems to get everywhere. Probably has been on every pitch that I've been on at some point. Well, maybe not, but yeah.
Maybe
But
nearly every pitch in the world, possibly. He's
maybe, yeah.
crashed a car,
Seems
sunk
to,
a boat, or done
but
something there.
that seems to show up at some point on every pitch that I've been on.
Yeah.
He does Edinburgh every year. He's got a big, massive box. He does bed of nails and stick. As the name suggests, he does stick, devil stick.
Yes. He does it with a pitchfork, I'm right to think, yeah?
He does do it with a pitchfork.
And so when you go back to Edinburgh...
So I get out of the taxi. He had to drop me at the bottom of the street, the taxi, because pedestrianised. Right? So I get out and I walk up the street. And he said, "Oh," because the taxi driver got talking to me, and he said, "Oh," he was like, "The street performers usually perform up there." So walk up the street, and as I slowly get to the pitch, all I can hear in the distance is one clap, which is the standard. I didn't know Stickman was there, so which is the standard kind of Stickman thing. If you don't know, he does this thing where he gets the audience to do one clap and then two claps, followed by three claps.
And he's quite militant about it, right?
Yeah. So he's doing that bit, obviously, and I get closer and closer, and the voice is just getting louder and louder, going one clap, two clap. So I was like, could hear it in the distance and thought, follow the voice, that must be the pitch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've had a similar experience as a kid being in the car looking for illegal raves, and you can hear music in the distance. You're like, follow the music. That's where the party is.
Yeah, totally.
And so you get there, and there's this big show going on?
Yeah, Stickman's doing, it's mostly evening shows in Galway. Stickman will always just do one show a night, maybe two, but usually one in Galway, because he's been going there for years, and he likes to abide by the old school rules. Because apparently they had agreement with the shops years ago that they wouldn't perform until the shop shut or something.
Fair enough. And
but there's another pitch. There's another pitch at the top of the street that we usually work during the day. This pitch is more of a nighttime pitch because it's quite a small pitch, and you kind of have to put your back against it. It's more, you more would do a semicircle rather than a full circle, because you put your back against the shops
and you don't want to block doorways, right?
You're still doing a circle show, but you're doing a semicircle rather than
Yeah. And I'd say the reason for that is because you don't want to block shop doorways, right?
Yeah. That was the reason for why we wouldn't perform. And it's good at night anyway. It's Galway, it's Ireland in the summer, and so people are drinking, but they're in a good mood. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so it's a very nice atmosphere there.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It gets quite noisy at night because there's like drums and a lot of like live music from the pubs and stuff. So you do need to use a mic, but well, I would recommend using a mic if you ever went there. But
yeah, otherwise you might.
But like I'm telling you, like I would like to see you there. Do you know what I mean? I'm not putting.
Well, if this whole craziness ends at some point, then I might very well go there.
It's very good.
Yeah, thank you. So after that, you go to Edinburgh, right? And so you've now spent a year, and this year from the last Fringe, you've gone to Covent Garden, you've worked a winter in Edinburgh doing the street, you've gone to Galway Festival, you're now a bona fide proper street performer. What's your experience in this Fringe like that's different from the other ones?
What? Yeah, also after Galway, you mean now, yeah. Good. Good. I think this is the year that Dynamite and like Daniel Zindler might have came to Edinburgh for the first time. I think that was around about that year.
They're two Canadian performers, right?
They're two Canadian performers. Dynamite does a unicycle show, and Daniel does like Rollerbola.
He goes through a tennis racket on top of a roller. Right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think I kind of became friends with them.
Was that your little crew?
Yeah, I think I hung out with Daniel a lot, and I hung out with Mike a bit, but Mike was kind of crazy at the time. He's calmed down a lot now, but at the time, that year, he was quite crazy.
Party animal, is that what you mean?
Yes.
You do a lot of parties? You're 18 now, right?
No, I'm 17.
So you're still a youth.
Yes, but I remember that the fence at City Cafe. This is the year like that I would kind of sneak in.
Okay, and did you have a quick quiet beer or something like that?
Usually, even during the Fringe, I think now during the Fringe there seems to be security on every night, but I think at that time it might have only been the weekend, so I'd sneak in, and then on the weekend I kind of used to climb the fence when they weren't looking and just sit in the corner so they didn't see me.
And why would you try and sneak in there?
I think maybe I might have had a little bit of alcohol like bought for me or something by other performers.
We shandy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you know, the odd, you know, kind of. Do you want to?
And so, why would you go there? Just in case people don't know what goes on there.
City Cafe is the kind of hub, I guess, where all the performers hang out during the Fringe.
So it's like a community centre.
As I said earlier, I think they used to hang out at the Tron, but they moved down to City Cafe for some reason.
Fair enough. And so, what people?
I think JP and stuff became friends with the staff, and then kind of
they had a flat above there, if I'm right in thinking.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so people drink there, and they sort of chat there, and it becomes the focal point, right? The point where people go to meet each other outside of doing street shows.
Yes.
If you want to meet the performers, you know to go there.
But usually end up chatting about the day of shows or whatever, you know. Oh, I had a good show today. I had a shit show, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, I think there's two good places to learn about the theory of doing shows, and one of them is behind the pitch at the queue or with the performers waiting for people to go on, and the other one is in the bar after the day's done, and people sit and have a beer and tell stories and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And so, is there anything particularly special that happens for you this Fringe?
Don't think so. Not really that I can remember. No. Still doing the same show really with the Too High with the guys. And,
yeah. But do you notice that you've improved?
Do you know? Yes. Yeah. I've definitely improved. I'm doing better shows.
And when you say you improved, do you feel more comfortable? Are you talking slower? Are you understanding the structure better?
Yeah, I'm taking the advice that I've been, you know, that I've been given. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And so after that, do you then go back to the street again? What happens to you after this Fringe?
I'm trying to think. It's all kind of rolling into one now. I'm just trying to think. I should have. I was going to do this earlier. I kind of forgot to. I was going to write some points down just while I remembered stuff. But anyway, that doesn't matter. But
it's okay. You know, it's not. It's also not that helpful sometimes when you're constantly having to look at notes to do stuff. It's nice that we're just chatting and you're kind of, you know, thinking through it with everyone's watching.
Yeah, I think I just stayed in Edinburgh after the Fringe and did the same kind of thing. Yeah.
And so you're working a show and you're getting your show better. You're improving the show. You're improving your juggling, I suppose, as well, because you juggle 4 knives now, whereas you were talking about juggling 3 clubs before. So that happens at some point along this journey, right?
Yeah.
Have you already, by this point, started doing 4 knives?
4 knives. Did I mention that?
Not yet.
No, I think I was maybe juggling knives at the beginning of the show. So I'm doing like I think I started doing like the around the world routine, as I would call it, which is like juggling how they juggle an impression of how they would juggle stereotypically in that place, like juggling in China, you know, that kind of.
And so you've got little gags for each place around. Yeah. It's just a way.
I think I'm juggling 3 knives at the beginning, and then getting the guys out. Oh, I started getting the guys out and getting them to like copy me, if you know what I mean, like. So, like, just getting them to go like hiya, you know, and to get them into position. Yeah. But so they copy me as the kind of was kind of like the middle routine, and then go into the finale.
And this is a bit of play, right?
Yeah, a bit of play with the volunteers.
Yeah, and so you go back to the street. You're building the act. You're progressing the act. And is it at this point then you start going to other places in the world, or is this much later?
That's probably a little bit later, but it's 2009, end of 2009. My birthday's New Year's Eve, so I turned 18 on New Year's Eve 2009. So,
and did one go and get drunk?
Yeah, obviously. I think I just had drinks in the house actually on my actual birthday. But then New Year continued, as it does in Scotland, for a couple more days,
Yes.
especially in Scotland, traditional thing. And I think
Yeah.
I went to I went out with like some old school friends or something on the. Yeah. Anyway, it's not about
Yeah.
performing, but
But
yeah.
it's okay. It's interesting nonetheless. So when you go back, you've gone, you're doing street shows, you're doing the Fringe, you're doing street shows, you're doing the Fringe. When is there a big change in your life? I know going abroad's a change, but there might be something else before that. Some moments that.
Yes. Well, so we're going into 2010 now. So I met a guy from Galway who then moved to Edinburgh for a while called Owen.
Okay.
I think you might have met him.
I know Owen, yeah, very much so. But what does Owen do? Tell me who Owen is.
Owen was an Irish performer. He lives in America now. He's not really a street performer anymore, but you know who I'm talking about anyway. Yeah.
I do, yeah, but everyone else doesn't. So describe a little.
That's true. I keep forgetting that. I keep forgetting that I'm not just talking to you.
Yeah.
Owen was an Irish street performer. He did like handstands and unicycle juggling on unicycle.
Yeah, and so why is it noteworthy that you meet him? You've met so many performers over your life.
Sorry?
So why is it noteworthy that you meet Owen? You've met so many street performers over your life.
Because he started living in Edinburgh. So I started hanging out with him quite a lot. I think he had a flat in Leith. But then...
so just getting away from the family house.
Something happened with his landlord, and he didn't really have anywhere to go apart from go back to his parents, but he didn't really want to do that. So he ended up staying at mine for a few months.
Okay, and so when you got there, you go.
I think maybe we're into like. So he came after the festival, 2009. So I think by the time he started staying at mine, I think maybe we're into like April 2010 or something like that.
Yeah. And so you guys go in and work in the pitch every day. You pitch buddies. Is that the thing?
Yeah. And then we went, and then we decided to do a tour of the UK.
Okay, wow. And how are you doing that? Are you getting on public transport?
Trains mostly, yeah. I think we got a couple of buses and stuff.
And you sleep in tents, or are you staying in hotels, or
we're staying in like hostels.
Okay. And so where'd you go? Where's the first place?
We first went Newcastle.
How was Newcastle?
Newcastle was interesting. It's more of like I forgot to say earlier, like I had like worked Glasgow and stuff as well, which is a shopping street, and which is quite similar to Newcastle. That's why I thought of it. But yeah.
Okay, and so it's very different from Edinburgh then.
Glasgow, I had worked in between times. I think between like a few of the years, but yeah.
But you say that it's similar to Newcastle, but it's Scotland. So I assume it's very different from Edinburgh then.
Well, yeah, it's like a shopping street. Glasgow and Newcastle is like a shopping street, so the people aren't there to see shows. They're not tourists; they're mostly locals.
Is there a different kind of local? I think you feel like different from Edinburgh to Glasgow. Is it a different culture?
Yeah, I would say so. Rougher.
It's rougher, more working class.
Yeah. But a good audience when you get a good audience, but you obviously get more hecklers as well. So.
And do you like having hecklers in your show?
It depends on the type of heckler, I think. I think sometimes it can make the show, but sometimes not.
How do you mean it can make the show?
Well, I think sometimes if they just shout out like a couple of things and you give them a good answer back, it can get good laughs, and it's like improvisation. So it's so that's fine. But other times they can be a bit more aggressive and just not give up and then kill the show completely. Do you know what I mean?
People don't feel safe. It's too much of a distraction.
Yeah.
And so, did you get that in Newcastle?
Yes, but maybe not as much as Glasgow. Actually, I like Newcastle. Like I've spoken to performers who've worked Newcastle and they don't particularly like it, but I actually quite liked it. I did a few good shows in Newcastle. Yeah. So Newcastle, and then I think we went to York.
Viking Town.
Sorry?
Viking Town.
Working down, yeah, exactly. I think we went to York, and then I don't like. I say a tour of the UK, I think we only went to like places where we knew there was a pitch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
You toured places that seemed viable to do shows.
Yeah, yeah.
Did
York.
you meet other performers in Newcastle?
Don't think so. Oh,
No.
maybe Nate. I think his name's Nate. Does like I can't remember. He does a show with his son now, but obviously
Okay.
I don't think he had a son at the time. But
Sounds interesting. And so when you went to York, did you meet anyone there?
York, yes. Andy Sumptum, I think.
And was there a queuing pitch there?
Does sword swallowing ladder.
Yeah. And was there a queuing pitch?
Yeah. No, I think York's a draw.
Okay. And so you went for the draw there.
It might have been queuing at the time. It's a draw now, I think.
Yeah, but if you only meet Andy there, Andy Sumptum, if he's the only guy you meet there, then surely it's not a draw. You don't have a draw with two people.
No, I don't think so. No, but it was me. But there was three of us, so it couldn't have been a draw at the time. No, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and so was that similar to Newcastle and Glasgow?
No, New York's more touristy. It's not really a shopping street where the pitch is. So I don't know if you've worked York yourself.
I've not worked. I've been there as a kid. You know, I've got took to the Viking Museum and all that kind of thing as a young man. I've never worked.
That's what I mean. So it's more tourist.
And so is that more middle class, or is it still working class, but it's just a different vibe?
I would say it's probably more middle class.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's more tourists, so less locals, more tourists. So they're there to see. They're not there to see shows specifically, but they're there to do stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're on holiday.
Yeah, and so they're willing to be involved in something that seems like a fun time. You don't have to grab them as much.
Yeah, I like York. I like that pitch.
How long did you stay there for?
I think we stayed in like each place. I think we stayed for like make sure we stayed for a weekend, if you know what I mean.
So you got 3 days.
So maybe arrive on like the Wednesday or the Thursday and then stay till like the Sunday or the Monday.
Fair enough. And so where's next on your journey?
I can't really remember York. I think we didn't go that many places really. I think we went to Bath after that, which is quite far from York.
Yeah, I was going to say Bath is much further south.
But then again, I can't really think of anywhere.
I think you went. Did you go to Covent Garden? I'm sure I remember you and turning up in Covent Garden.
We went to Covent Garden, but I think that was the last place.
Okay, so you went to Bath and then Covent Garden.
I think that was kind of the idea because it was a known place. Do you know what I mean? So that was kind of the finish. But I think we went to Bath and then Covent Garden. I think that was it. But
so
I don't like. I can't.
Hello. John Booker said hello, Matt and Scott. Or in fact, John Booker said Matt and Scott.
Even now, I can't really think of anywhere between York and London or Bath, depending on what direction you go in. But I can't.
What was Bath? Bath's a very well-known kind of historic.
Bath is a well-known pitch, isn't it?
Yeah. How was it?
Good. Yeah, that's definitely tourist.
And what was it? Was it a draw? Was it a queue? Were people nice and welcoming?
Well, Bath was a bit different because they used to, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have bits of paper that they put in the fence. So whoever was first in the morning put a bit of paper in the fence. That would be the first person in the queue. So it was a queue system, but you didn't have to have your stuff there. You just had to put a bit of paper. And
this was on a system that you wouldn't take somebody else's bit of paper out or something like this.
Yeah, so it's honesty. So you would know if you'd put a bit of paper there. If it wasn't there anymore, then it was like in between a little thing of fence, so it would stay there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd trap it between it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And what were the shows like?
Yeah. And you would know if you were first, so that was a bit of honesty as well, because if there was no other bit of paper there when you put yours in, then you would know you were first. Do you know what I mean?
Did you meet the other guys? Were the other guys around there then?
Yeah, Dom.
Who's Dom?
He's used to work in Bath all the time. He does a juggling show, unicycle as well.
Okay. And anybody else?
Yeah. Anyone else? I think there was a guy called Lee.
Reed? Ridiculous Reed? Ridiculous.
No, Lee. Sorry.
Lee. Okay. And what did Lee do?
I think he's passed away now.
Okay.
unfortunately. But he did. Oh, yeah, I remember this great thing. He had a remote control bag. Do you know those kind of checkered bags that you kind of get in the pound shop or something? You know what I mean, right? So he'd taken the thing off the remote control car and just left the wheels and the thing that powers it, obviously, on it, and then attached this bag to the wheels, right? Then he still had the remote, obviously. So he'd start his show by following people with this remote control bag.
Fun prop.
You what?
What a fun prop.
Oh, it's great. And then I think he like balanced an axe on his head or something and juggled.
Okay, so it's something reasonably original.
Yeah, kind of like I think he started his show kind of silently, but then he would go into talking once he had them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, there's something quite special about that, isn't there? If somebody can build a crowd without saying a thing, it builds a certain amount of tension. It's different from when you
It's weird it's a bit weird because there's obviously shows that are completely silent, but I think you have to be good because you're creating a different type of energy, if you know what I mean. So you're going silent, and then
and it's a big transition going from being silent to talking, or
yeah.
versa. It's
I've done a silent show myself, which we'll get to in a bit.
So when you go back to Covent Garden with Owen, is it much the same experience as the first time?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think I was maybe a bit of a stronger performer by this point, so as we did better shows. But
okay, and so did you stay in Covent Garden for long?
Maybe a couple of weeks this time. Like I don't know, not that long, but probably a couple of weeks, I would say.
Okay, Scott. And so did you go back to Edinburgh after that?
Yes.
Okay, and so you go.
This is probably by the time this was over. This is probably like I think we maybe left Edinburgh in like May, so this was maybe like the end of June by this point because of obviously traveling and staying in each place. Time had passed, so.
And so what's the next? Sorry, 1 second, mate. What's the next big thing for you?
So 2010, I just did the Fringe again, and then I went back to Covent Garden. I think the next March.
Okay. Why did you go back to Covent Garden?
Owen left Edinburgh and went to London, so he was left Edinburgh for a while, and then I just went to meet up with him.
So you just wanted to hang out with your buddies?
But I could have just gone and stayed with my uncle, but he was staying at Phil's, who's a performer in Covent Garden.
Phil, do you want to say who Phil is?
Phil is a performer that does slack rope, juggles knives on a slack rope.
And I believe he has a house, doesn't he, where lots and lots of performers come in.
Yeah.
It's like a 7-bedroom house.
So I could have just gone and stayed with my uncle or something, but obviously I was hanging out with Owen, so I wanted to, you know what I mean? So I stayed. So asked Phil if I could, I think Owen asked for me if I could crash there as well, and he was like, yeah no problem.
Yeah. And so how long did you stay in Edinburgh and Covent Garden for?
A few weeks this time.
And then headed back. So just say we've got to an hour and a half, and so we've got half an hour left. Yeah, I told before we began the interview, this is exactly what everybody does. They get to that, they go, what, all that time? So we've got half an hour more, and I know there's a lot of your story left to tell. So we want to talk about you going around the world, right?
Yeah. So let's get to that. So 2011 now, this is the year when I got booked through Todd Various to a festival in Macedonia.
Yeah. John Booker's asked me again to say hi to you for him. You know John?
John Booker.
John Booker, he's Edinburgh lad. So he says hi to you anyway. But sorry, so you've got booked through Todd Various?
Sorry. Yes, I got booked through Todd. Todd had been doing this festival for a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years.
What was the festival again? Sorry, I think I talked over you when you were saying it.
Macedonia.
Okay.
In the city of Skopje, which is the capital of Macedonia. Macedonia is the former Yugoslavia.
Yes.
Which is now Macedonia, Montenegro, Croatia.
Yes.
And maybe a couple of other countries, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a festival in Macedonia. You do about 10 days in Macedonia, and then you go to Montenegro, and they take you to Montenegro and Croatia.
Okay.
I believe it might just. I
Is that
believe the
3
festival.
weeks?
Sorry,
Is that 3 weeks, a week in each place, or 10 days in each place?
I think it's 10 days in Macedonia, and then I think it might have been a month altogether.
Okay. And so, what's the
So,
experience like for you then? This
so
is the
10 days
first
in
time you've been
Macedonia,
there.
and then the Montenegro and Croatia part's not as long. I think you do a
Yeah.
few days and a few days. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And so, what's the experience like for you then? This is the first time you've gone and done a booked festival like this, right?
Yeah. Good, very good.
But more than being good, like
Didn't make much money.
you must have been nervous when you went there, right? It must have been scary. You got on the plane, you flew out there. This must be. Is this not something which is
I was
which
with
was
other
a
people. Owen got booked for the festival as well.
so it's kind of it's like a road trip with buddies.
So it was me, Todd, and Owen
Yeah.
on a plane. Yeah, it was good actually. It was good.
And did they put you up in a hotel?
Like obviously at the time I'd been on a plane before, but Todd had obviously travelled more than me, being from America and then coming to it, obviously. So I remember we changed. We had a stopover in Amsterdam. So yeah, and I remember Todd kind of having a bit of a go at me in the airport in Amsterdam. But yeah,
Why did you ever go? Were you being
just
annoying?
because I think I was stressing out a bit.
Why were you
Just because,
stressing out?
I don't know, to get to our next connection, and then he ended up going, "Look, we've got plenty of time," and then just kind of getting annoyed.
And were you being? This is the first time you've done this, so you're a bit nervous about this, right?
The first time I had like had to change planes, I think, and yeah.
And airports are quite chaotic places.
Yeah.
And so when you get to Macedonia, are people speaking English there? Are you able to do your show in your normal style?
Well, Todd told me that they didn't speak English, right? But they did. And they spoke quite good English, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I did so the first couple of shows I did, I kind of didn't do it with much speaking. I did a bit of speaking, but I did it kind of to music.
Okay. And is this something you practiced before? Is it something you
not really?
trained?
No.
Okay, so you were going on the fly.
Yeah, Rumpel was at this festival as well. There was when we got there was other performers that were booked for it as well. Rumpel, Dynamite, and Damien Ryan is what I remember.
Deadly Serious. Deadly Serious. Yeah. Yeah, so we have got an interview with Rumpel as well. He did 6 hours, 4 of which we were able to film. So you can check that if you want in the archive.
John Booker's just messaged me.
Yeah. So how did it work then? You're on the fly. You're trying to do this show to music for the first time. Did it work?
Yeah, it did work. Yeah, I'm in a kilt as well. So
you've got this Scottish feel to what you're doing.
It started wearing a kilt by this point, yeah.
And so this festival works well for you, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything you notice is different about playing to a Macedonian crowd?
Yes. They're very the men are they're very manly, if you know what I mean. So
traditional man kind of idea, yeah.
Yeah, you can't really do any kind of camp comedy or anything like that, really.
They want you to be manly as well.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
And so did that affect the style of your work?
After a couple of days, I just kind of went back to my normal show because I realised that they spoke English.
Fair enough.
Like I saw, like Dynamite and Damien, for example, they were doing their normal show, and I'm thinking, people are reacting here. Do you know what I mean? Like they're understanding them.
Yes.
So I just went back to my normal, but yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. So you did that. You did the whole tour. At the end of that, do you go back to Edinburgh again?
You got paid for it, but you also hatted it, but you didn't really make any money in the hat. Do you know what I mean? But, well, there you did.
Okay.
But when you transferred it back to pounds, it didn't.
So it seemed like a lot of money, but you got killed in the exchange rate.
There you could live like a king. You know what I mean? On the hats you were making, you could live like a king. It was great. But yeah, and I had a great time. Had a great time there. And then went to Montenegro and Croatia on the festival. Obviously, 2 cities in Croatia. I think it was Split and Šibenik. So
And
the
what
2 cities.
it's all the people you know, you're all
Šibenik might have
touring.
just been a town actually, but yeah.
Yeah, so all these people you know, you're touring with them. What's the feeling like between all of you?
Good, yeah, it was good.
Are you like a family? Are you getting along? Do you drink together? Are you socialising together?
I think they split the performers, so some of them went to Croatia, and then we went to Montenegro, and then they swapped over, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I was on the thing with Dynamite, and I think Damien was in Croatia for a wee while I was there, and then he went to I think anyway, I can't remember exactly.
And
we
so,
were all kind of together at some point, you know.
Yeah, and you're hanging out, you're kind of chatting about the shows, chatting how it's going. Do people hang out in the hotels after? I assume you're in hotels.
Yeah, we're in hotels. Yeah.
Yeah, and so people hanging out after that. Do you sit and chat with the performers?
We ended up having a pool party, but there wasn't actually a swimming pool at the hotel. But Todd went and bought a massive paddling pool, but it was like a giant paddling pool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It ended up being a pool party.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
In the backyard of this hotel, but it was like just a back garden, but it was more like a house hotel, if you know what I mean. But but yeah, it was good. I had a pool party. It was good.
Cool. And so you go back to Edinburgh after this, yeah?
Yeah.
How is it going back into the street again after doing these festival shows and being, treated like a star?
This was June, so by the time I'm back, this is July, beginning of July now. So
you're leading up to the Fringe.
So leading up to Fringe, yeah.
Yeah, and so you go abroad again. You've been abroad a number of times, haven't you?
2011 is when I went to Australia as well.
Oh wow! So you did that after the Fringe?
Yeah, November.
Okay.
I think I went in November. Yeah.
Is that something people usually do?
Yeah, a lot of performers have been to Australia.
But do they usually go in the British European winter time? Do people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you normally leave about November or December, I'm guessing.
And is that to escape the European winters?
That is to escape the European winters, yes.
Okay, I got you. And so when you go over there, what's the experience like there? You know loads of guys there.
Well, I think I'd been to. I think I went to Covent Garden for a little while after the Fringe, and then met Bike Boy. But this is the first time I've seen Bike Boy since the year when he bought me the clubs, because he hadn't been to Edinburgh and I hadn't.
And you were like what, 13 years old at that point? 12, 13 years old.
So I'm now 2011. I'm now 19.
And so how's that? Does he laugh, smile, takes you for a beer?
Yeah. Did I see him? Yeah, it must have been that year when I first saw him again. Yeah. Yeah, and he was like, and that's when I said to him that I was thinking about coming to Australia, and he said, "Well, come to Sydney first, and you can stay at my house."
Yeah,
yeah. So that was good. So it was like, just when you get your flights and all that sorted, just message me and let me know. By this point, most people are on Facebook and all that. So he's like, just message me and let me know basically when you're planning on coming and all that.
And so when you went over Australia, did you stay at his?
Yeah.
And I take so when you go there, right? Australian shows, it's renowned for being a place.
His girlfriend met me at the airport because he was away for a few days, but he was like, "Oh, my girlfriend will meet you. Like she's seen you on Facebook, so she'll know what you look like, so she'll wave to you or whatever when you come." You know. Yeah. So she met me at the airport, and yeah.
How nice of him. And so when you go to Australia and when you work in Sydney, it's renowned, Australia, for being a very slow building place. The shows don't build quickly.
Indeed.
And so what was your experience of that?
So I go to Sydney and you have to get a license there. So that only took a day. That's fine.
What did you need to get the license?
Public liability, and that was about it, I think, really.
Okay. So it's a fairly easygoing license. You don't have to...
Yeah. Well, you're supposed to go to like a safety audition, but the person who does the safety audition is JP.
So it's a fairly easygoing system.
Or he definitely used to be at that time. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he was like, "You don't... It's fine. Like he sorted it out, basically.
Yeah.
And then he came and I did a show. My first show in Australia was in Down Harbour in Sydney. There's 2 pitches in Sydney, so there's Down Harbour and there's Circular Quay.
And what was it like?
Circular Quay being the one near the Opera House.
Yeah. And so when you do the show, what's it like? Is it shocking how few people stop and how quickly they stop?
Yes, but I think my first show was actually quite good, like better than I expected it was going to be. Saturday afternoon, I think, but it was hot though. But this was not the November, so it wasn't actually quite the hottest part of the year yet, because I think that's January. But yeah, so I did Sydney, and then I went to Melbourne, and then I went to Adelaide for the Fringe Festival in Adelaide.
And what's the Fringe like compared to the Edinburgh Fringe, the one you grew up with?
Very different.
How so?
It's very. It's known as the second biggest one because Edinburgh's the biggest. But when you say the second biggest one, I wouldn't like to see the third biggest one. Do you know what I mean?
What? You're saying it's small?
It's small. It's there's a shopping street called Rundle Mall, and that's basically more like just doing a street show. And then there was a pitch. At the time, there was a pitch just opposite. There used to be the Garden, but I missed that by a year, I think. Which was like the pitch inside, like it's like a garden with a Spiegel tent and all that.
And what was it like? Was it any good?
But that pitch wasn't there. But there was one across the road on the corner. They've one across the road on the corner where they've got like another smaller garden, which is called the Gluttony. But with tents and shows going on in the tents, and then we were doing street shows out on the grass on the corner. You know.
And was it different to do street shows there? It's not quick build. You said it was felt more.
The one outside the garden place was quite good. I think most people usually just work that on the weekends. That was quite good because people were going in the garden and stuff to see shows. So that was.
So you're getting the passing traffic.
That was a bit more like doing a festival show. Yeah. But the Rundle Mall is more like just doing a show, and it's probably one of the hardest pitches I've worked.
Why?
Because it's just like pulling teeth. How do I describe it? It's just like a really slow build, and it's in February in Australia, so it's the summer.
So it's very hot.
40-degree heat.
Wow, I couldn't imagine doing a show in that heat.
Some days were 40-degree, but where the pitch was, you put the audience in the shade, but you're in the sun. So it's very hard, and even the audience are in the shade, but even in the shade, it's hot. Do you know what I mean?
And so you're sweating to death, basically.
Yeah. The audience are still hot, even though they're in the shade.
Yeah.
Like you put them in the shade to make them feel most comfortable, obviously. But
did you have any trouble working that kind of heat, or was it just working? Well, when I mean that, obviously you have trouble working that kind of heat. But did the club slip in your hands? Is it hard to see what you're doing? Not
overly hard to do the juggling. Just make sure you're well hydrated. Let's say that. I don't get me wrong. I worked it out and did it and did a few good shows there, but it's not easy.
Yeah. And did you do any stage work there?
I would go back to. Well, that's what I was just about to say. I would go back to Adelaide and probably do street shows as well, but probably try and get an indoor venue and do a show indoors.
Is it more geared towards that then? Is that really the focus of the Adelaide?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, because I know that in the Edinburgh Fringe is quite a happy.
It's not really a street program, although there's one weekend. I don't know if she's still doing it, but Louise, who is Mr. Spin's partner.
Who's Mr. Spin?
Mr. Spin is a very good juggler from Adelaide. Oh no, I don't know if he's from Adelaide originally, but he's from Australia. Yeah. And he's done circus work and all that. He's very good.
Yeah, he's very professionally skilled.
He's a skilled performer.
Like Shane, the space cowboy you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And so when you go back to Edinburgh the next year, is this the year you start doing indoor work?
Yes.
And what was that
Yes.
like then? Because it seems to me when
I don't know how you. I don't know how you worked that out, but yes, it was.
I've got a gift. What can I say? So when people do indoor shows in Edinburgh, it always appears to me like it's an incredible slog. It's really difficult, you know, far more difficult, it appears to me, than doing street.
I did a thing called the Free Fringe. So it's like it's kind of like doing a street show indoors, but you've already got the audience, so there's no build. So you start the show right away, obviously. But you hat it, but you ask for money at the end and hat it in the same way as a street show. And I know a few street performers that have done this over the year, and I think street performers succeed with it more because they know how to ask for money at the end of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't overly succeed with it, but I think that was just the venues that I've been put in and stuff as well.
Also, it's hard to get people into the venues, right? This is what I see most of the people.
That's the thing. Getting the people in, getting the the street performers do quite well from it because of the thing, but the hard bit is getting the audience there in the first place. That's the because it's not like a crowd build, because you have to fly earlier in the day and stuff.
And you've got to rely on being one of the many faces.
You can't just start flyering at 15 minutes before the show. Do you know what I mean? Because people have already got plans by that point. You know, it's not going to work.
Well, I suppose it's an idea that no one's done. Is you could go outside and build a crowd and then bring them in.
I guess you could. So you'd have to start at like 10 minutes before your time slot.
Or 20 minutes before, and you say, right, I'm just building a crowd. The show's going to be in this venue, but I'm building a crowd. Right now, we've got everybody.
But the problem is there's a turnover, because usually there's a show on before you. So, and you have 15 minutes for that show to pack down and you to set up.
Yeah, and so you'd have to have someone else setting up for you, and then drag the people in, maybe, or something. Who knows?
Unless you didn't have much setup, but yeah.
Yeah, and so as we're approaching the last 10 minutes of the interview now, maybe we span the short time between then to now. So you've done some other stuff from there. I'd be really happy to hear about that stuff.
Yeah. So, where are we at? Yeah. So 2012 did the indoor show. That was all right. It was an interesting experience. Didn't really do any indoor stuff until 2016, I think.
And was that more of a success?
A little bit. The next year, 2017, was more. I was in a nightclub just off the Grassmarket.
Okay, which is a much better location then.
Yes, and that went quite well.
When you say quite well, you're getting more bodies in there. You're starting to get an actual entertainable crowd.
Some nights were still shit, but I think Edinburgh Fringe is a very hit or miss. It depends. I think it depends what big names are on at the same time as you and stuff as well. Do you know what I mean?
And did you get a better venue because you'd been doing it more years, because you're starting to get known?
I believe so. Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
But I still haven't managed to get the venue that I really want.
What venue do you really want?
The venue I really want is Voodoo Rooms.
Voodoo Rooms. I stayed in Edinburgh with a chap called Chris Cross at one point. He got the Voodoo Rooms and he kept it for a long time.
I know Chris well.
Very happy. I think we've got Chris Cross on in the coming month, I believe. He'll be doing his Whining On quite soon, so watch out for that, everybody.
Okay, so 2016. 2016 is I got booked for a festival in China.
Okay, what was that like?
Good. This is when I did the silent show.
Okay, because they don't speak English there then, or predominantly they didn't speak English.
No, they don't.
And I take it you don't have any Mandarin up your back pocket.
It was Pop, the balloon man, who does balloon modeling. He got me this gig, and he was there too.
Yeah.
And Paddy
Potato,
yeah, and Billy Kidd, who's
magician,
who was Gazzo's partner. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Was Gazzo.
We didn't.
Yeah. And a bagpiper as well, but yeah.
And how did it go?
Good. It's a bit weird. It wasn't really a festival. The idea was that Pop got to know this guy that owns a shopping centre, right? And the idea was that he was getting performers to try and get people into the shopping centre, which didn't really work.
I believe they call it animation.
Yeah, so we were doing shows outside, but we were also doing shows inside the shopping centre.
Yeah.
And we did a theatre show as well, which was only supposed to be at the beginning of it and the end of it, like to welcome people to the event and then to say goodbye, basically. But we ended up doing the theatre show every night.
Okay, and why did you do this show every night?
Because it went well. It went well, and then he was like, "Oh, I think we should do this every night," which wasn't really the right idea because some nights we had like 3 people in.
And it takes away the thing that's special about it.
Whereas if we had only done it a couple more times, then it wouldn't be, yeah.
And I'm going to fire through because we're in the last 8 minutes of the interview now, so I'm going to fire through this. So after you come back from China, what do you do next?
After I come back from China, just what I was doing really. 2068. Just back to the Fringe again, and then yeah.
So right now you're not street performing, are you?
No.
So since COVID broke out, you stopped street performing, right? As everyone else did.
Well, no. I applied for this job at this holiday park before. Well, I say before COVID. We had heard about COVID.
No.
But it wasn't in the UK yet, if you know what I mean. Like it was the China thing, and then when it went to Italy and that, obviously, right. So basically, I was looking at other jobs online, right, and then came across like Haven, which is the company I work for now, which is a holiday park company, and kind of just applied for it on a bit of a whim, really.
So when you say a whim, were you thinking, oh, well, that might be something fun to do?
Yeah. I was thinking maybe do it for. One season, and if I enjoyed it, maybe do it for one more season, and then just go back to street performing, just to have an experience of performing at something indoors more and something.
Yeah, a different scenery.
Yeah, exactly.
And so obviously you got the job then.
But the guy kind of called me out of the blue and just said, he said, would you be available for an interview, like kind of how we're talking now, like a Skype interview?
Yeah.
So, and then a few days later, he called me and said he'd like to offer me the job. So.
Wow. And so what's the job like?
It's like presenting stuff more and doing like bingo calling quite a lot.
You're a red coat, right?
Well, it's Haven, so I saw that you put that on the description, but that doesn't matter. It's along the same lines.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter because Butlins is actually the same company. It's Bourne Leisure, which own Haven and Butlins, and I think they also own Warner Hotels.
So Redcoats is the Butlins specific one.
It's Haven. It's called a Fun Star, but it's basically the same thing as the Redcoat.
And so you're kind of entertaining. I always think about it like Heidi High. Is it like Heidi High?
It's a bit like that, but a bit more modern.
Yeah. And so do you stay in chalets? Do you have the crew?
I'm in a caravan.
Okay. And is it like
I'm in the caravan now.
There you go. And is it like Heidi High? Are you a community? Do you all know each other, get along? You all support each other through stuff? And
well, this park that I'm on is owners only, so it's like, so you do get to know quite a lot of the guests as well because it's owners only. Most of the parks are holiday makers, so this park's a little bit different from that.
And is that a reason why you're maybe still open right now? Because you're still working. You're there at the moment, right?
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not working. We're going into lockdown on Thursday.
Well, I suppose, yeah, same as the rest of us. But you were working before, right?
But and I think I'll be going. I spoke to my manager today, and I don't fit. He didn't know for definite yet if I'm allowed to stay here or if I'm going home. But before, when we went into lockdown the first time, I was basically, you have to go home if you can get home, if you know what I mean. So I think I will be going home.
And just very quickly, in the last couple of minutes, we've got what's the job like compared to street performance? What are the skills you use from street performance to do it?
Well, presenting, so talking to an audience. So that's so I'm used to doing that. Obviously, that's
working a crowd.
That's quite similar.
Yeah.
Bit different because you're using like a handheld mic and you're doing, and you're doing like mascot stuff as well. So like they've got like Rory the Tiger and stuff like that. So you're doing that kind of stuff, but it's good. It's been a bit different. It's been a bit different from normal this year, I think, but obviously I was here for 2 weeks and then we went into lockdown. I was back in Edinburgh for 3 months, and then.
Are you on the wage while you're in Edinburgh? Do you still get paid?
Yeah, I was on furlough.
That's not bad. That's all right. Then you can't complain with that.
So I kind of timed that right. I got lucky.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I just heard someone knocking at the door. I think somebody's got it. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of rushed that a bit at the end there. I didn't really I probably missed some stuff with street performing and stuff. But yeah.
Well, maybe we missed a few things. We might be able to get you back at some point and we can finish off the story, do some all round stuff there. We've got a couple of minutes left. We have 3 minutes left. So in these last 3 minutes, is there anything you want to say to everyone else?
Well, I just hope that that hopefully one day soon we can get back to street performing. Like I'm doing this job just now, but I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on the street performing completely. I will go back to it definitely. Like, I don't know what's happening next year or anything yet. So because my contract's supposed to run out on like beginning of January, but I don't know. I don't even know if I'll be here for like, we're supposed to be doing Christmas parties and stuff every weekend of December, but I don't even know if we'll be back in December or not because of this now. Well, hopefully, like it's saying they're saying the 2nd of December, aren't they? But we'll see.
Yeah, we will. We can see.
And but it looks like it does look like I will be going home to Edinburgh. So and I don't think Scotland's in full lockdown, so that could be interesting.
Well, you see, maybe if it's not in full lockdown, street shows will be possible.
I don't know if street shows will be possible because the pubs are closed, I believe. But
well, time will tell, mate. Time will tell. The pubs were closed, I think, when we started doing shows. If I'm right, I'm not sure. Is there anything you have to use performing from the age of 10? You've built a show as a young man around some of the best performers in the world. You had quite a unique experience. But is there anything you'd like to say to young performers who might be beginning, who would watch this video after in a later date?
Anything, just get out there and do it, I guess, is the best advice I would say. Like, when you can. But yeah, if you're thinking about doing a street show, or if you have skills and you would like to perform with it, I would suggest definitely just getting out there and doing it. And I would suggest, like, you don't have to be a juggler. You might have another skill. You might do magic. You might, but I would say just get out there and try to do street shows, because it's hard, because it's quite easy just to go out there to do. I'm saying it's easy, but it's not, because it's nerve-wracking. But it's easier to just go out there and do a street show than to try to get gigs right away, if you know what I mean. Like, if you just want to perform, then you can just go out on the street.
You've got endless stage time on the street, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So your advice is for people to just get out there, no matter what, whether you want to do stage or anything like that. You say just go and work on the street and iron out all the kinks there.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah. Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. It really has. Genuine pleasure.
The one thing I'd say is it's easier to go from street to stage than it is from stage to street. So, yeah.
You might as well start on the street.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Scott, great pleasure. The last time, is there anything you want to say to anyone? Last things?
No, just thanks for watching, if you're watching, and thank you, Matt, for allowing me to do this.
Well, my pleasure, mate. Thank you for doing it with me. And everyone who's watched, again, I reiterate what Scott said. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a great time listening. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're on Facebook, like, share, follow the groups, join Whining On with public performers. If you can, join the Patreon. As much as £1 a month makes a massive difference to the project. We are trying to fund to get editors and internet specialists and all these other different things to make the show better. From me, I'd say goodbye, Scott.